Hi. This episode may be slightly pessimistic. And also, maybe if you're a man, you might take offense to this. Although I kind of feel like I frequently say things that men would take offense to, so I wouldn't say that's anything new. But I want to talk about giving up on men. If you're a man, maybe give it a listen. You might learn something useful. But I would consider myself a misandrist. I think that a misandrist is just a feminist who realizes it kind of doesn't work to just be a feminist anymore. You have to start fucking holding them to the same standards they hold you to. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I can't have hairy armpits, why do you have any body hair at all? Do you know what I mean? Like, someone's going to clip that and make me sound like Stalin, but do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I have no empathy anymore. I think a big part of it comes down to is, you know, you watch people you love over the course of your life go through things, primarily at the hands of men. And I think, from what I can gather, having a lot of older women in my life and a lot of very wise women in my life, for most of these women, there comes a time, almost like this realization where you kind of just give up. And I don't even know if it's like a hope thing. I think it probably is a hope thing. You just lose hope. And I think most people see losing hope as a negative thing. It's a sad thing. It's like a loss, you know, instead of a gain. Like, it sounds negative. But for me, losing hope has been one of the most liberating things that I have experienced. I proudly lost hope at the start of this year. I had a really weird experience with a man that was just not comfortable in the slightest. And I don't know what it was. It was almost innate. It was like something clicked inside of me. And I just couldn't bring myself to care. And this is not to say that I don't have amazing male friends, because I do. Like, quite a few of my very, very close friends are men, and I value them so much. I have great men in my family. Like, I grew up with a really great role model. My granddad's like a great man. Like, I'm not one of these people that doesn't believe men can be good. I've just given up in the pursuit of finding that for myself. I think almost part of me has realized I have it in a way that is safe for me. You know, the male relationships I have are safe. I'm not at risk. I'm alive. I know that might sound extreme if you're a man that's listening to this, but this is genuinely like something that a lot of women think about every single day, is how do I not get murdered today? And I think as a woman in the modern day, a lot of the men I have in my life have been in my life for a very long time. So, you know, I don't have to go through that process of learning at what point you're going to start being mean to me, or at what point you're going to hit me, or at what point you're going to, you know, disrespect my boundaries, or at what point, whatever. Because I think there's a point in every relationship, whether that be with, you know, a male to male relationship, male to female relationship, female to female relationship, if you identify as non-binary, whatever your gender and your sexuality, however you choose to identify, there is always going to be a point where you're going to see someone in something you don't like. However, I find that every time I was getting either in a relationship with a man or developing any kind of, you know, romantic anything like that, it wasn't just like, oh, you know, they disrespected my time, or they triggered something in me, you know, whatever. It was like, oh, they are seriously manipulating me, or oh, they are stalking me, or oh, they are like violating my physical boundaries, you know, things like that. It's like, okay, these aren't just like little things, these are big things. And you might say, well, you know, not all men are going to do that, and like you can't close yourself off to men forever and blah 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 blah. And I completely understand that, and I agree with what you're saying. And I think obviously it is inherently sad for these men that like that I am not around anymore. Like, I don't know, like I don't have I'm not like open to new relations, you know? And I think that's really sad for them, because I think, I don't know, I think like I would be a good partner, but like I think I'm not alone as a woman in knowing right now that I don't need that. Like, I don't need that. I think inherently a partnership was beneficial for quite outdated reasons. You know, a partnership was beneficial for men because they got the emotional support that they quite often don't get from their other male friends. And for women, it was a good way for financial stability and security. And now I do that for myself. And I've always found, you know, like whenever I've dated someone, I found them to be a drain on me. And I think there was maybe one person that I've dated that wasn't a drain on me. And we actually still have a relationship to this day. And yeah, I've just always found men take more than they give nowadays. And it's something that I'm not really prepared to compromise on. I think I'm at a point in my life where I am really becoming quite secure in who I am, what I want, and where I want to go. And I don't see a way that a man like factors into that right now. Like, I would never change my trajectory for a relationship. I'm not looking to build with someone. I'm not looking to grow with someone. I'm not looking to settle down. I'm not looking to, you know, I don't know. Like, I just feel like I have friends for all of those things. Like, I don't need it anymore. I don't want it. And I think part of me, up until, honestly, this like flipped switch went off in my head a few months ago, or like last month, I don't know. I was kind of always holding out that hope that, like, you know, it's like, oh, well, one day you'll meet someone and it will just all click into place and it'll all be perfect and everything will whatever. And like, I think because that is a story that we are taught so often from such a young age, it's really easy to wish for that and see, you know, other people in relationships and assume. I think as well, that's another thing that it comes down to, is the assumption that everyone in a relationship is happy. Like, or people look like they've got a better relationship than they have, or people look happier than they are, or, you know, this thing of like, I've never been happier in my life than when I've been single. Like, in the nicest possible way. Like, I don't like telling people where I am. I don't like having to answer to someone. I don't want to know what you're doing. I don't actually really care what you're up to. Like, it's so funny because a lot of people say that, you know, your relationship is meant to be the most important relationship in your life. But I would so much rather sit on the phone for an hour to my mum or one of my best friends than a man. Unless that is like one of my male friends. But like a random man that I've known for a few months, like, what do you have to tell me? Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you have to tell me that actually I am interested in? And I think maybe that would be different if I met a man that was like interesting. Sorry, sorry, like I know this isn't sounding very nice, but if I met a man that was interesting, that might be a bit different. But like I have interesting male friends. Like I find my friends very interesting, so I could just talk to them. Like I don't need another one. Like I'm pretty content with where I'm at. But I think this is a phenomenon that is like rapidly circulating the internet at the minute. I see a lot of women that are kind of going through this like mass, I don't know what you'd call it. Like there's a movement in, I think it's South Korea. It's like the 4B or 4 something movement, where basically women are just swearing off men because of how badly they're treated by Korean, like the female standards for Korean men are just like ridiculous, but the male standards are so low. Like they get away with anything. It's like even like having sex with a prostitute is not considered cheating, apparently, in South Korea, which is just ridiculous in my opinion. And I just think there's this rapid increase of women who are waking up to this realization that a lot of what we have been fed is literally propaganda. And don't get me wrong, like my favorite genre of movie is a chick flick. Like I love a chick flick. I love like a love story. Like everyone loves watching a rom-com every now and then. It's great, but like I have so much love in my heart, it does not need to go to a man who's not going to appreciate it. Do you know what I mean? Like I would so much rather give all the love that I have to the people that I already know in my life appreciate it. And that's not to say that if, you know, I met the love of my life, like, fair. But I'm not trying for that anymore. Like, I think this is kind of, like, feeding into a larger realization that I'm having. Maybe, and I think, obviously, part of that is due to the increasing globalization of social media. We are banding together as women and understanding more about each other's individual experience. But also, I think just growing up and realizing that I'm not here to be saved. Like, I think that's a big thing that I was taught growing up. It's like, a man's gonna come and save you. No, he's not. He can't even pay his own bills. Like, I'm sorry, but that man's not even buying me dinner. He's not gonna fucking save... What's he gonna save me from? What is he gonna save me from? Nothing. Like he's not going to save me from anything, and that's fine. And I don't think it should be his responsibility to save me. I don't think anyone should have to save anyone these days, you know. And I think like one of my friends, he is super passionate about equality, and he has a lot of differing opinions to me about equal rights. That makes me sound like I don't respect equal rights. I do, but we have very different views about traditional like relationship standards, because I would say I'm quite a traditionalist. Like if a man asks to take me out, I would expect him to pay. Like if I've asked to take someone out, I will pay for you. Do you know what I mean? Like that's kind of just the way I see it. And I do like sort of traditional values. Like I like don't get me wrong, I like working, but I like cooking. I love cooking. And I actually quite enjoy fucking cleaning the kitchen. Do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean that I want to do it all the time. And that doesn't mean that I don't want to have the option to do anything else. And that doesn't mean that if you don't like doing it, that you should have to do it. But I like doing that for someone as, you know, it's sort of like an act of service type thing. Like, I think my love languages that I give off are very different to what I expect back. Like, I much prefer quality time over receiving acts of service, or like words of affirmation kind of keep that away from me. I'm not really too fussed about that. But it's like, you know, I think for me that's something that I've always viewed as a love language, you know, because I think as well, like growing up around, like my mum has always struggled with her health, so making things easier for someone is always a way that I've been able to show like love and gratitude, you know. And I think that's something that is obviously my individual experience, but I find that I find that men view a lot of what was acts of service as Okay, I'm really sorry about that. I got a phone call and I also put headphones in because I'm outside now. So I'm sorry if the audio has changed. So what I was saying is I find a lot of men view acts of service as something that is expected of them instead of something that they actually want to do. And I think that is the issue, and that is the disconnect between a lot of men and women, when women have these expectations and men feel like they have to perform or live up to these ideologies or these, outdated, whatever it is. And then fundamentally it just leaves men not really engaging in a form of love giving that they want to, and women can kind of tell that it's disingenuous, and then you're just in a loveless marriage or relationship or whatever it is. And it's something that I think I can very easily discern when someone doesn't want to do something, and when someone is kind of just doing something because they think they should, as opposed to genuine, want. And I think that's one of the reasons that I almost value my relationships with my friends over my romantic relationships, because there's no expectation in a friendship. You're not doing these things because society tells you should, like you're doing them because there's a genuine care there, and there's a genuine level of connection. And I think a lot of people stay in relationships. I remember I kind of felt like with my last relationship, like that we were just together for the sake of it, and it was jarring. Like I was just like going through the motions, and like I was actually speaking to one of my exes the other day, funnily enough, and saying about how he was the only ex that I'd ended it with that I didn't want to. Like I did it because I had to, but like all of my other relationships, it's all been very like, I couldn't get away quick enough, which sounds really horrible. It makes me sound like a right bitch, and I understand that, and like I can see that this may not be a popular mentality if you are sort of someone that identifies more with like the lover girl trope. And like I think to be that way inclined would be really nice, and I think it would be a really fun, maybe not fun, because I guess that sort of, I don't know that experience, because I've not lived that experience, but I think I've tried to embody that experience before, and I think I've tried to be that for other people. And that's kind of what I mean when I say that I can tell when it's disingenuine from someone else, because I can tell when I'm not being genuine within myself, if that makes sense. And I think when I say I've given up, and it kind of sounds like I'm man-hating and, being this huge misandrist, that I know I am, but it's more about, I think a lot of it, and I say this literally in every episode that I make at the minute, and you're probably getting fed up of hearing it, but I think a lot of it simply does come down to alignment. And I think because of the nature of vibrations, they're changing all the time. Your vibration is not set, it's not fixed ever. And I think it is unrealistic to enter into something with someone expecting both of your vibrations to stay that way for the rest of your lives. And I don't know a way that is the case, because I've had friends that, we are the best of friends, and then we have our time apart, and then we come back together, and that might take years. One of my really good friends, Daisy, we had like 2 years apart, maybe like 2 or 3 years apart, and I still revere her as genuinely one of the most important people in my life. But we had that time apart where we weren't aligned, and vibrationally we were on a very different wavelength, and that's okay, and that doesn't like diminish our relationship. But you can't do that in like a typical like girlfriend-boyfriend relationship. And I don't mean to talk about it in sense of like the binary and things like that. Like it's got nothing to do with that. But as a concept, and this has less to do about men and more to do with the concept of a relationship. I think I'm realizing that it's not like I'm like polyamorous or anything like that, because I personally couldn't be in a situation like that. I don't want that for myself. But it's more the thing of like, I can't promise you that I'm not going to evolve. You know, and there's that whole thing about like we grow together and blah blah blah, and like, yeah, okay, and that's great, but like I can't promise that I'm going to grow in the way that you want me to, and you shouldn't have to grow in my direction if it's inauthentic for you. And that's the point that I come to, where I think, especially because I sort of will always hold the belief that women will always be spiritually more advanced than men, purely because we have innate connection to the afterlife. We have a womb, like we literally bring things in from the afterlife and birth them out of us. Men don't have that ability. They don't have that level of connection. You know, there are countless sort of examples throughout history of women having connection to spirit in ways that men don't. You know, like astrology was men tried to understand it first and they couldn't, and then they didn't like when women could understand it, so they demonized it. And you know, women have always been like soothsayers and psychics and shamans and things like that. Primarily the spiritual leader role has gone to a wise woman, and I find that women just innately have a better core understanding of spirit and spiritual concepts, and that I think a lot of growth comes from your spirit and your soul, and doing something that your soul wants, not necessarily what your, you know, third dimensional human reality wants you to do. And I think maybe that's why it's easier to, I mean, I don't know, as someone who is like so straight, maybe I'm not straight, I don't know, but like as someone who has lived the whole of my life in straight relationships, I am yet to experience being with any man that understands that innately. Whereas pretty much all of my actually I think every single one of my female friends and every single female in my life understands that as a concept, you know, that like if we don't grow together, that's okay. Whereas I think men lean on us far more than we lean on them, and I don't really like that. And like I can understand that like men may feel burdened by that, as you know, they've lived their lives being taught to be this provider and be this beacon of like security, and then given the political and economical state of our society, they can't do that. They can't provide for us. You can't be the sole provider in a family anymore as a man. Like unless you have a really good job, but as the bog standard run-of-the-mill average Joe on minimum wage, you can't provide for a family. You know, it's hard enough providing for yourself. And I think that is something that a lot of men these days are really struggling with, is not feeling good enough. And I think there is this weird correlation between masculinity and proving yourself, like being enough. You know, I think there's like this definite correlation between femininity and weakness and vulnerability, and masculinity and the opposite. And it is something that is clearly very well researched, and please don't come to me as a fucking pinnacle of like feminist ideologies and patriarchal structures. But I think as women are rewriting that narrative, maybe this is like the second generation, where I would say, I mean, as where I've come from, I know this isn't the same for all women across the world, but where I come from, I would say I am maybe like the second or third generation of woman who's had complete autonomy to do whatever I want. Maybe second generation, you know, my mum pretty much had full autonomy to do what she wanted, but she faced a lot of like social rejection and social exclusion, whereas I don't necessarily face that. And that is something that I'm very grateful for. But I can understand that that leaves men in a kind of tricky spot where maybe they don't feel as useful, you know. And I actually was reading this study about vasopressin, which is a chemical that is released in men's brains that basically like makes them fall in love with a woman. And vasopressin is it's released like at a lot of different points, but it's primarily released when you make a man feel useful, when you get them to do a task. That is why men are make really good army people. I don't even know what you call them, like military, I don't know, but that's why men are good at that, because they're really good at following orders. You know, it's like that stereotypical thing of like a woman runs the house. Like a woman is, in my opinion, a natural leader. And there are some men that are great leaders and do have that inside of them. But I think innately, the woman is the leader, you know. And I think men, now that if you look at the current state of men and women today and how they view each other and whatever, women aren't leaning on men for as many things, so they don't feel as useful, so they're not releasing as much vasopressin, so they're not falling in love as much. So it's kind of, there's this weird transactional, you know, it's like, oh, we're having casual sex, but like there's nothing else to it. And you know what I mean, there's no grit to any of it anymore. And I think a lot of that is because we're realizing that structure that we were using just doesn't fit modern society. And that's okay. And I think we are going to have to find a way to move past this. And I think when I say like men aren't useful anymore, it's okay, I'm so sorry. People keep calling me, so I keep losing my train of thought because then I have to keep fucking... I don't understand audio files and technology. Okay. What I mean by men aren't useful to me anymore, and I decided I don't like care, is that I've given up on the expectation that a man is going to come into my life and sweep me off my feet and fix everything, you know? And like, it's really sad that obviously that had to come from like a period of pain. And it's weird because the situation that happened that made me come to this realization, the guy was actually inherently very helpful. Oh, he did a lot of things. He was actually quite a useful guy. It's just a shame that he was a terrible man and really scary individual. And this is, I think, where this is, I think, for me, and again, please do not take this as me being like, I know some incels going to listen to this and be like, yeah, woman gets help from man and still hates him for it. Fuck her. Like, yeah, true. But like, I think this is where I'm confused in my head. I'm like, oh, because even when they do all the things that they're meant to do, they're still fucking stalkers, or they're still rapists, or I'm not calling this man a rapist, by the way. But like, they will still beat you. They'll still manipulate you. They'll still do, it's like, they'll do one thing for you and then be like, but I did all these things for you. And it's like, oh, you're missing the point. And I think that is one of the things that I actually can't deal with, that I personally struggle with a lot of men, is this whole point scoring thing. And I was actually having a conversation with one of my really good male friends the other day. He's actually like my best friend. And we were talking about, he was saying about how, like, performative masculinity is so weird, because you might be like, yeah, I love Claro and matcha, but you don't actually engage in Claro or drink matcha. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, why? And then I was like, yeah, but like, I have only ever in my life been asked to prove that I engage in a culture by a man. Like, I remember when I was like 13, I started listening to Flatbush Zombies. This is so random, but like, I started listening to Flatbush Zombies because I was going to see, this is such a throwback, I was going to see Ray Sremmurd perform. They were my first concert. And I was super excited, and I was like, for some reason, like, again, super into rap. I don't know. I'm not a rap girl. I listen to like swing music, not rap. But at the time, I loved Race Remmond so much. So I started listening to Flatbush Zombies because like they were quite similar. I think they ran in a lot of the same circles. And there was these boys in my school that went to see them in concert. And I was like, oh my God, no way. Like, I love Flatbush Zombies. And they were literally like, name 5 songs. And they were like, I would ask, like, I remember so clearly one of the boys that I was talking to about it, he was like, I would ask you who like makes up Flatbush Zombies, but you just look it up. So sorry, like, nah, I don't believe you. And I was like, I remember at the time being like, why do I have to prove my knowledge of this subject? Do you know what I mean? Like, why? Can I not just like something without liking something? And I think that is innately like a masculine trait, because like I've never been around a woman and been like, oh yeah, I love Lana Del Rey, and then be like, name 5 songs then. Shut up. What do you mean? And I think that is one of the things that I have found about relationships with men, is this element of like, yeah, well, prove it. Like, why are men always asking me to prove it? Like, I actually have a podcast that I made a while ago, like years ago, and it was about how like, as a spiritual person, people will always ask you to prove it. Like, what do you mean? Like, why? Why do you want me to prove it so bad? Like, so you can be right that I was wrong, or you thought I was lying? Like, I don't know. Like, and it's so weird because I've never once had this happen from a woman. Like, no woman has ever asked me to prove my worth or prove that I am telling the truth. And I don't know if maybe like part of this comes down to like men just generally exaggerating things. And because they know that they exaggerate things, they expect that everyone exaggerates things. And they kind of, I don't know where this point was going, but in my head, I just feel like there's this really weird correlation between like men lying all the time and then women facing the fucking backlash for it when they want to like engage in a subculture that doesn't like fit them. Do you know what I mean? It's like you engage in something that isn't fucking Sabrina Carpenter or Pilates. And bear in mind, if you do engage in that shit, you're basic and they don't want anything to do with you. But then if you don't, you have to prove your worth. You have to prove that you fucking read Emily Bronte. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't even know shit about Emily Bronte. Like, I think this is the thing, is like, there's this weird dick swinging competition that men bring into every element of their lives. And I would just like to say that like this is mainly going for straight men, because obviously I, as a straight person, go for straight or bisexual men. And I don't find this as much with bisexual men, because I think they're a bit more clued on to like their conditioning and they have a bit more of an awareness around things like that. But like, for the most part, like most of the straight men I engage with project their heteronormative values that their bros all like implement on each other onto women, and then wonder why it doesn't work and why they're single and like why they can't get anywhere. Because it's like, I feel like what is attractive to a woman and what a man thinks is attractive to a woman are completely different. Like, I remember when Twilight was a thing. This is like years ago, mind. Like, this is like going back to like 2009. I remember like so many boys in my school when I was like 10 being like, I don't see what all these girls are seeing in Edward. Like, Edward's like skinny and white. Like, that was genuinely like the thing. It was like, oh, he's pale and he's skinny and he reads. Why would she want that? And it's like, wow, you really have never taken a minute to understand a female's mind, have you? Like, you've never thought that maybe a woman doesn't want some like jarhead, like gun crazy, camo wearing, jacked up, like steroid beast And this is the thing, like, I'm so sure that some women want that, but this is the thing, it's that option to choose. Like, we now have this option to choose. Before we didn't have that, and it's like, I think that's the main disconnect, is that now I have the option to choose. I also have the option to not participate. Like, non-participation before was either a political fucking statement or it meant you were a spinster, which again is a fucking political statement. Whereas now I feel like I can not choose and it doesn't need to be some political statement. And I do believe that everything is inherently political, and that I'm aware of that and I understand that. But like, I should be allowed to not choose and not have to explain myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, why is it that like a man on a night out, like when he doesn't take no for an answer, he'll be like, why? Do you have a boyfriend? Are you not straight? Are you not this? You can never just be not interested with a man. Like, there has to be something. It's like, oh, you think I'm ugly? Oh, you think I'm like no, you just talk too much. Shut up. Like, I don't know. I feel like this episode, if this episode gets more than fucking 10 views, I'm getting cancelled. And that's okay. I've made peace with that. Like, I'm happy to get cancelled because I honestly, I do not want to be the voice of the people. Like, please do not look to me as your person to take advice from. Was this slightly extremist? I don't know, but we take it as it comes. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Love you, bye.